Hello and welcome back to Hank's Yarncast. My name is Casey. I'm the owner and operator of Hank's Yarn Parlour in Belfast. And thanks so much for joining me here. It's just where I talk about my knitting, what I'm working on, what's in my queue, pretty much all things yarn related, and also a bit of shop news. Guess we'll start there with shop news. So, not an awful lot new in the shop just at the moment, but there are some new yarns coming very shortly. And I actually was hoping to get some feedback from you guys on one potential, because I'm a little bit on the fence about this one. So Erika Knight, my Erika Knight supplier, has very generously sent me a sample of their new Moorland Mohair yarn. So this is a no-nylon sock yarn. Usually nylon is in there to give your socks some reinforcement and make them a bit stronger so you don't wear through them so quickly. This one uses mohair in that capacity instead. Mohair is a really, really strong fiber. So this is the main base is BFL. So it's blue face Leicester and mohair. In fact, I'll just tell you the actual makeup. So it's 80% blue face Leicester, 20% mohair, fingering weight, 4-ply weight, so 420 meters per 100 gram skein, which is what you'd expect, I suppose, out of a sock yarn. It does come in some really fabulous colors, and I'm not sure you can really tell on camera, but this has got some really fabulous luster to it. It's not like glossy, but it's definitely got a bit of a sheen, and it's absolutely stunning. Doesn't have a massive halo either that you would expect from mohair. There's a little bit of one. If I get this a little bit closer, you might be able to see this. Just gonna want to focus on my face. I'm just gonna want to give you that. But so I haven't knit this up yet, so I'm going to skein this up today, cast on some socks and see what it's like to knit with. It feels absolutely luscious in the hank, so I'm expecting good things. The thing that is kind of making me a bit wary about this is I'm kind of wondering if the price point is going to be a little bit excessive for most people, because I know that, I mean, for a pair of socks, but I'll tell you, so what this works out as retail wise is about 27, 28 pounds a hank. That's what it's going to come out at. Now, I realize that is probably out of the budget of most people, but if you're really in the market for a no nylon sock, would you be willing to go up with something like that, especially if you are getting luxury fibers, which is absolutely is, no doubt about that. But yeah, I kind of wonder if I'm going to bring it in as luscious as it is. If it's just going to hang out on the shelves and it's not going to move, then I don't think that's really going to help anybody. We may as well bring in yarn that you guys actually are interested in. So I am going to skein it up, cake it up rather, and have a go at knitting with it. I do think I'm going to knit a pair of socks because I would like to just see how they wear. So obviously that's going to take some time. I'm going to probably want to wear them for a few months just to see how they hold up. So that may be a determining factor in whether or not I do decide to bring it in as well. But I would love to know what your feedback is. Do you guys care about no nylon socks? Would you like to have more no nylon options? I'll show you too. I have the shade card. This does come in some really beautiful colors. As always, Erika's colors are always... So this one that I've got here is number 8. It's called Meadow Purple. And this one down at the bottom, this is in fact a navy. It's not showing up very well here, but this is navy. It's not black. But all of her color palette tends to be really harmonious, and they really enjoy that you can kind of pick out any 2 or 3 colors from that palette and they all work together. You really can't go wrong mixing and matching if that's your jam. So yeah, let me know what you think about no nylon socks. Like, I obviously... The ethos here at Hank's is to always try to keep as much natural fiber and minimize as much synthetics as we can, but nylon certainly does serve a purpose in socks. So yeah, I'm a little bit waffly about this one. But let me know what you think. As I say, I'm gonna cake this up and cast on some socks. So hopefully by next podcast I will have finished a pair of socks with it, and we'll be able to give you some feedback on how they're wearing. Probably won't have worn them that much at that point, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so let me know your thoughts on no nylon socks in the comments below. And then I suppose I'll just get right into what I've been knitting. Well, let's start with what I'm wearing. Okay, so the scarf, or cowl, I suppose it's an infinity scarf. It's actually modified. So this is the Drumlin pattern by Diana Wallen. I'm going to double check that right now because I just had her up, so I wouldn't do this. Pardon me, Diana Walla. So I've actually modified this. So her original pattern, which I'll pop up right here, is a really, really lovely scarf. So it's not connected. She just ends it with these two really lush deep columns of ribbing. And as lush as they do, I have to admit, as when I first saw the pattern, absolutely was in love with this colorwork motif. It's so simple, but it's so effective. But the idea of doing like 6 inches of tiny ribbing on either end of that scarf was absolutely petrifying to me at the time. I was like, there's no way. Also, it does mean that her pattern of the scarf is quite a bit longer than what my cowl works out at. So it would have taken about twice as much of yarn. And I took this away. This was actually just kind of a travel knitting project for me. The last time that I went to Canada, which was, gosh, 2.5, almost 3 years ago. But I took it because I wanted plain knitting. Knitting for on the plane. I know it's not very plain color work, just something to keep me engaged, but nothing like super challenging. So I knit this until it was about 4 feet long, and then I Kitchener grafted it together. And I must say, Kitchener grafting, because I ended up, just the way that the color work chart on this goes, there aren't any plain rows. There's no rows that are just one color. So I had to figure out how to Kitchener graft using 2 colors. And it absolutely can be done, but it took some time and it is not for the faint of heart. So I would suggest, if you're interested in doing something like that, at the time I felt like it was kind of a sloppy graft, but I'm looking for it now in this tube, and actually I think it's one of the orange rows. I'm pretty sure that I grafted it on, but you know what? The fact that I can't immediately find it now, I'm happy enough with that. It just means that it's kind of disappeared in there, so it's fine. The yarn that I used for this was so the white, or the cream kind of, it's off-white and orange, are Koopnit's Soxia 4-ply, and this lovely luscious purple that you probably cannot get the benefit of on this camera is it's Giddy Ant Yarns Blackcurrant Jam. So they're now trading as Inspiring Yarns. They do still make this color, so it's still available. Maybe bringing it into the shop shortly. I am actually hoping to get an order in with them. Hopefully be placing the order with them within the next week, and then it will land down with me hopefully by the end of I want to say mid to end of March. That's what I'm aiming for, guys, but it really depends on how busy they are, so we'll see. But yeah, so orange, purple, and cream came out really lovely. There's no really long floats to catch or anything in this. So yeah, it worked up fairly quickly, I suppose, for what it is, for a 4 feet of 4-ply scarf that is double-sided. So it's knit as a tube. whether you're knitting this one or not. So it's knit as a tube. She finishes off the original scarf with about yay much ribbing on either end. I just grafted mine together because there was no way I was going to do that much of this scarf. It did become not a slog, but just kind of towards the end of it, I think I was just getting a little bit anxious to actually have the final thing and was enjoying the process a little bit less. It happens on our knits sometimes, but we got there in the end. The sweater that I'm wearing, actually I'll just stand up so you can see. This has got some color blocking on it. This is actually a Flax by Tin Can Knits. And again, I've modified this. So there is the original pattern. So she has, they do a garter panel down the sleeve, just really, really simple. And I actually opted to swap that out for seed stitch. I just prefer the texture of this. I absolutely adore seed stitch. It's one of my favorites, and it's so, so simple. And it meant that I didn't have to modify any of the stitch counts or anything like that, but it did just kind of add something a little bit different. And then I also added some color blocking, so about the bottom fifth around the sleeves and the body, I've used this really lovely gold color. This is, the yarn is BC Yarn Loch Lomond, which is a woolen spun worsted weight, 100% wool, and it does have like a little bit of a tweedy effect, just a tiniest little bit of a fleck, which I'm not sure if you'd be able to see if I got my jumper up a little closer. Oh, we're a bit pilly under the arm. No, it's just going to blow out, but in the cream there are some really beautiful little gold nets that match in perfectly with this. I really love this kind of the way that the colorways that they've done for this yarn. All of them have kind of like little nets from each other in them, which makes them go really, really well together. You can kind of pick any sort of set of colors and they'll pick up on the nets in each other, and just makes them really nice and harmonious, I find. So really, really love that. I think it's a nice sort of little attention to detail that you don't always see in commercially dyed yarns. I also really, really love the Loch Lomond for this, for sweaters. It's one of my favorites because it is woolen spun, so it's nice and lofty and light. It traps a lot of air, so it keeps you warm without weighing a ton. And it also means that you are getting pretty generous meterage in each skein. So these come in 50 gram skeins. They're 150 meters per 50 grams for worsted weight yarn, which is quite good. Yeah, so this sweater is actually the one that I use when I teach my Knit Your First Jumper class. That is also going to be coming up again. I haven't set a date for it, but if you're interested in learning how to knit a garment and you're local to Belfast, please do keep an eye out for that. It'll probably be starting again, probably the end of March. I've got all my February classes kind of in full swing right now, and I'll have all the March ones hopefully up within the next week or two. So that's my aim. I don't have any finished actually no, I do have a finished object. Hang on. Okay, so last podcast I said that I was going to kind of delve into some older knits that needed a bit of surgery. Something that just kind of hadn't gone quite right, whether that was wanting to add pockets or the bind off being too tight or the sleeves need lengthened, things like that. So I've got kind of all these different past projects that I'm mostly garments made that I don't wear as much as I should, or I don't reach for them as often as I should, because there's something just not quite right about them that's kind of putting me off. So my goal for this year then is to kind of tackle all those little problems, because a lot of them aren't major fixes. They wouldn't take an awful lot of effort to get them done. I just need to actually give myself a bit of a kick up the bum to actually do them. So the podcast is keeping me accountable for that. So I will show you the first one that I decided to start with was a little bit gentle. So I had knit my partner one of my buffalo toques for Christmas. Now, this was a lastminute.com gift. Like, I knew that I was going to make it for him, but I didn't get it started until kind of the 11th hour. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I think it was just because I was rushed. I made the brim way too short. So this is what happened with it. This is a photo of him wearing it. Now, he was absolutely delighted with this hat. Didn't think there was really anything wrong with it. But you'll notice, like, the cupping on the brim there. It's just way too short. It was kind of always just like edging up off of his head, and I couldn't watch him wear it anymore. So I took it off him, and I did a bit of surgery to get the brim down to what it is. So it should have been what it is now, just about, in fact, this is a little bit longer than 2 inches now, I think. But yeah, when I started, I had about 1 inch. So I cut off the brim, picked up my stitches along here, cut off the brim. I didn't unravel the whole brim. So there's 2 ways that you can do this type of surgery, if you like. So I could have just picked up all of the stitches along the edge where the brim meets the color work. And then, so this construction on this hat, it's brim up. So this is the brim is cast on edge. So if you're going to pick up here and then unravel it back, you have to cut off the cast on edge. You will never unpick that while you're sane. Honestly, it'll drive you absolutely batty trying to unpick that. So just cut it off. Save yourself the hassle. I know we don't like to lose yarn, but it's not worth it. For the 3 yards of yarn that you're going to save, not worth it. Cut it off. So that's one option. So you could just cut the cast on edge, unravel the whole brim, and then knit this direction, bearing in mind that all of your stitches are going to be kind of 1/2 stitch off because you've changed direction. So that's one option. Then you would have to obviously just kind of bind it off. Now, the reason that I decided not to do that and I went with option 2 is because, well, truthfully, there are 2 reasons. Partly because I was being a little bit lazy and I didn't feel like since I had 1 inch of ribbing done, and I didn't really want to have to knit 2 full inches of ribbing. I actually picked up stitches here and also picked up stitches around the top of the brim and cut out the center row, unraveled that. So I still had 1 inch of ribbing to work with. Continued knitting in the same direction, and then grafted it on again with Kitchener stitch to reattach it. So partly because of laziness, but also partly because I've used a tubular cast on, long-tailed tubular cast on. Ooh, there's still an end to weave in here, which is really stretchy. It looks absolutely amazing as well. Like, it's kind of my go-to for rib, 1x1 rib. But I do find, now this does have a matching bind off, so you can of course do an Italian or sewn or tubular bind off to go with it. But I always find that my tension on the bind off is tighter than it is on the cast on, which means that the brim wouldn't be quite stretchy and it wouldn't quite go around the same way. So there's, more than one way to kind of do this. I opted to go the Kitchener route, and I know that most people would be really turned off by that. A lot of people really dislike doing Kitchener stitch. So you might prefer to just knit it the other way down. So there's always more than one way to do something, and that's absolutely fine. I do think, having finished this again and blocking it, I didn't notice at the time, but I actually think, so there's ever so slightly, there's a little bit of a line here that you can see. That is where the original brim started. And I think what's actually happened here is that I've used a different needle size by mistake. I think what I actually did is when I went to redo the brim properly, I used the correct needle size. I think when I was in my mad panic to do the world's quickest color work beanie, I think I actually used the body size needle. I didn't go down a needle size here, so I'm pretty sure that this bottom of the brim is actually knit on a 5mm, and then I switched to a 4mm. So it flares out a little bit at the bottom. It's not massively noticeable. Once it's on his head as well, like it stretches out, you can't tell at all, so it's absolutely fine. He's fine with it. It looks a lot better on him now. I've got a photo of him here wearing it, so yeah, so that's one thing off of the knitting repairs list. So go me, happy about that. Now most of my other knitting time has been taken up with my iris sweater. So this is we're on to whips now. That's all I've got for finished works. So this is the iris pullover. I'm making some reasonable progress in this. I've got one kind of full row of the flowers. This is the back. I've got one full row of the flowers done. I took a bit of a break from the color work to do the collar, so I steeked the neckline, cut it open, picked up the stitches for the collar. This is a folded collar, so it's double layered. So there's actually about 8 centimeters of rib there. That, never ending rib, took absolutely ages, but worth it, 100% worth it. Glad we got there in the end. Just starting the second kind of row of flowers now, so it's just kind of like the blue tips of the irises, and I'm almost ready to separate for sleeves. I mean, it won't really be a separation because this is drop sleeve construction, so there's a steek down either side for the sleeves. So the separation for this is, sorry, my hair stuck to it. So the separation for this is essentially just going to be to bind off those steep stitches and carry on, just omitting those extra 5 stitches from the thing. And then when we're ready to pick up for the sleeve, once the body is done, the body may not be done. I pretty typically with my sweaters will knit kind of just a couple inches of the body past the sleeve separation, like past the armpit, and then go back and knit the sleeves. And the reason for that is because if you're knitting top down and you want to try your jumper on as you go to kind of get an idea of the fit and the length of things, I do find that, first of all, if I wanted to try this on, I would have to open the steeks anyway just to get my arms through it. Otherwise, it won't fit around my arms. But the second part of that is that adding the sleeves will change how the jumper actually sits on your body. So this weight of the sleeves themselves, of the structure from where you pick them up, things like that, will make a slight difference to the way that the rest of the body of the thing fits you. So if you've ever tried on a top-down jumper, knit the whole body, were happy with the length, then went back and added the sleeves, and once it was finished, just suddenly was like, maybe it was riding up on you, or it was too short, that's probably why. So definitely consider knitting your sleeves before you finish off your jumper, because it will kind of pick up the fabric in this area and kind of lift it a little bit. So there's my tip of the day. So I do like to knit the sleeves before I finish the body. So I'll certainly finish the rest of kind of this repeat. Like, I think I'll probably knit what is about this section of the color work again. We'll probably have bound off the steep stitches by then and have about an extra inch or 2 on the body, and then I may just go ahead and do the sleeves, and that should help me with the fit. It should also help me a little bit because you may recall that I am playing Yarn Chicken with my main color in the background here, which if I do the sleeves first, I find it a little bit, I'm okay with having to crop the body. I would rather crop the body than crop the sleeves for sure. So if that's required. I did end up going with the purple yarn. So last time I was kind of having a bit of a dilemma. I had several different options of what to kind of put in as this stem color. So I'm waving this around in my face trying to get the camera to show you the actual color of this yarn. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with it. Like it's definitely bolder than what the original pattern called for. Like there's definitely more contrast there. But it is really lending itself in a weird way. It's actually fading from that kind of navy blue at the base of the flower into the brown that is at the base of the stem. It's actually making a really nice transition there, weirdly enough. So I'm quite happy with it. And I've more than enough of that purple to go around, so that's not going to be a problem at all. Yeah, really enjoying this knit. It's a slow one, but it is enjoyable. You're getting a color change kind of every 5 or 6 rows, sometimes sooner. So that's keeping things interesting. And the chart is not too bad to memorize. I mean, it took me a couple tries to get my head around it the first time because the flowers are actually different, and I think I just kind of get into autopilot sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, a flower. This is the sequence for the flower, but there's actually 2 flowers. So, but yeah, once got a hold of that, it's absolutely fine. I'm really, really looking forward to wearing this, so I'm trying to get this off the needle so it'll be ready for kind of springtimey, be a good transition piece. The springs do tend to be quite cool here still in Northern Ireland, so yeah, a good piece for that. I'm really looking forward to that. The other thing that I've been working on, so I chatted to you guys last time about some let lopi that was left over in my stash that I was trying to figure out what to do with. And that I had decided I was going to design a poncho pattern for it because couldn't quite find anything that was right for the amount of yarns that I had and kind of the colors that I had. So I'll just remind you quickly, it's a monochrome palette. So these are all left over from a couple of Jennifer Steingas jumpers that I knit a few years ago. So this is the palette. And I do not have even numbers of all of this palette. I have even numbers, more or less, of the 2 lightest ones and the darkest one. Those 2 grays in the middle, those 2 skeins, part skeins, are all I have. So trying to work out some sort of color work pattern motif to put into this poncho. I had kind of toyed with the idea of doing something like a fade, but I just don't think that there's quite enough of these to do that fade justice. I think it would just be like in those sections, it wouldn't be a bit jarring. I don't think it would give you enough of a smooth gradient. So we're leaning towards color work. But before we decide what the color work motifs are, I've just kind of been taking a bit of a stab at what the sort of construction, what the shape of the thing I really want is. So I had a good long think about it. And I think, so a lot of poncho patterns that I looked at didn't have any kind of shaping around the shoulders. They're really just designed to kind of pop on and it just drapes over you, which is great. However, given the nature of let lopi yarn, that it does tend to not have naturally so much drape. So in order to make this work for that sort of pattern, I'm going to do 2 things. So one of them is I'm going to knit it at a slightly looser gauge than I normally would. So I've just gone up 1 needle size and I'm aiming for a gauge of about 16 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. But again, not written in stone yet. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to share this process with you guys, but I think I will. I mean, I'm so new to designing, and this will be my first garment design. It's not even like a particularly fitted one, but it will absolutely be a massive challenge for me. So I thought I'm going to take you guys along on this journey with me. So what I thought about to shape it, the other thing that I want to do to kind of make sure that this sits the right way on the body is to actually give it a little bit of shoulder shaping. So a lot of ponchos would be kind of, if they're knit top down in the round, then they might kind of basically go on something of either a raglan pattern, which is what I had in my head initially, or they might do kind of a circular yoke sort of thing, which obviously would be really suitable for collar work. It would really lend itself to that. But I don't want it to kind of, I'm just worried about how it's going to sit. I want it there to actually be kind of make sure that it sits on your shoulders and doesn't kind of shift round to the front or around to the back. It just stays put where you want it to stay. So before I get ahead of myself, one other thing that I did kind of want. So I wanted a little bit of a collar on it. I wanted kind of the cozy feeling of a collar, but I wasn't sure that I wanted it right up in this little kind of sensitive bit at the base of my neck, because it is that loopy, and even though I like a rustic wool, I'm quite sensitive just here. So I knew I didn't want it like right up against my neck there, but it's okay for it to be up there at the back. So I thought that a shawl collar would be really cute, just to do kind of like just a little half open, sort of like Henley length little shawl collar, so it should wrap around something to this effect. So you'll get this sort of little crossover at the bottom, and then I wanted the shoulders to kind of come off here. So I had initially thought about, okay, well, what if we start off with some raglan shaping? Now the problem with that is the raglan shaping will interrupt any color work pattern that is there. So that would mean we would have to move the color work down or accept that it was interrupted, neither of which I'm super keen on. And then I thought about it and decided that maybe a contiguous method would be a good way to tackle this. So if you're unfamiliar, the contiguous method, which I believe was originally pioneered by Susie Myers, I think her name is. If I've got that wrong, I'll pop it up here. So she has basically come up with a method of starting out as a top-down sweater and making it in such a way that it appears to have set-in sleeves. So it's not a circular yoke, it's not a raglan, and you're not picking up around the armholes to set in a sleeve. You're just kind of knitting it all in one piece back and forth. Sort of, it's not really short rows either. You're starting the piece flat. So I've got one here that I've started a sample, and I just thought, well, I'll just knit a little bit and just see how the shape of this kind of comes out. And it is all stockinette right now, so apologies that it's curling. So this is actually I'll hold it that way. So this would be the back neck here, and it kind of comes round. So where my markers are right now, this has got kind of 5 or 6, I think it's 5 stitches that I've got in the middle, which are kind of they're going to create a bit of a band, like almost like a saddle shoulder. The original contiguous method, I think it really is just kind of like a line. I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 stitches usually. So that line, you're basically kind of adding stitches as you go on either side of the sleeve, so kind of the front and the back. You're adding the fabric here with increases, not unlike how you would add them in a raglan. They're just the setup into where those increases are is a little bit different. So if I hold that up to the camera a bit closer, maybe you can kind of see that this is kind of coming off of that shoulder. So there's increases coming off here, which is giving that kind of one angle of this wedge shape. And then I've also been increasing on the neck edge shape here to give it the V-neck. So that little wedge basically is creating a triangle that's going to kind of fill this area between the shoulder and the neckline. And then across the back is sort of just your sort of typical sort of trapezoid, same kind of shaping as a raglan. It's really, really similar. Again, it makes a little bit of a difference where you're putting those increases. So in a raglan, you're usually increasing, which is what the tin can knits one. So in a raglan, you're going to be increasing on the body side and the sleeve side. But in the contiguous method, you're only increasing for so long on the body side, which is basically, so where this raglan line is, if you can imagine, that actually gets shifted to sit on the top of the shoulder. So it basically just follows a line down here until you get to where kind of the peak of your shoulder is. And then you start your sleeve cap shaping to fill in this area. Okay, hopefully that's made sense. So I think for the shape of the neckline that I want, and in order to make the sort of body of the poncho sit where it should and kind of almost like trap your shoulders in there, so that I want that knitting to just ever so slightly hug the shoulders there so that it doesn't shift front or back. And this also allows them for that V-neck to be a little bit more raised at the back and then come down into that shape where it's a bit deeper at the front, and then I can pick up the collar and knit it at the end. I haven't worked out yet, but again, I'm just trying to figure out the shape of the garment first, and then I'll go back and kind of add in the color work. Now, of course, what I've been thinking the more that I go on with this is that, like, I'm probably going to have to rip this back. I think what I'm going to do is have another dive in my stash just for some other Aran scraps, just in terms of figuring out exactly what I want this shape to do, because I haven't quite figured out how long I really want this line. Do I need it to go all the way straight to the tip of the shoulder? And then how is that going to fit in with how many rows I have for the V-neck? Is the V-neck going to be deep enough? There's a lot of trial and error, obviously, that's going to go into this. So I think what I'm going to do, I do have some leftovers from all of the hats I've been knitting in. This is Rosario's 4, by the way. This is their bio wool. It's Aran, it's 100% wool as well. It's non-superwash, although it does oddly feel super smooth for non-superwash yarn. It's absolutely delicious. So my thought was that what I might do is kind of cast on another sample in the scraps of what I have that, just until I can work out the shaping, because if you've ever had to frog back let loopy, you know that this stuff does not really agree with that. It's not a ply, well, I suppose it is plied, but it's very, very loosely plied. The break strength on this is like nothing. Like, I can pull a bit off this tail for you, like, no problem. It's just like, so frogging this is not a joy. It is just, it's not going to be fun. So in an effort to save my sanity and also my yarn, I think I'm going to cast this on again with some scraps, and just until I can work out the kind of major shaping. So I'm going to continue to plug away at that, and then once I have the shaping done, then I can sort out what sort of color work motifs that I want to use. And I think I want to stick with something probably fairly geometric. I've been really kind of digging diamond shapes lately, so there might be, I think those will lend each other itself well to do kind of like some sort of nesting diamond shape, where I can kind of change the borders and the fill of those diamonds with the colors that I have available. And hopefully they'll look really striking, that geometric in that monochrome palette that I've got to work with. Yeah, so it's still very much up in the air, but I'm enjoying the process. I'm looking forward to getting a finished design out to you at some stage. As I say, if I'm kind of actually thinking that this is probably going to take the better part of a year. So hopefully, I'm really hoping by the end of the year that I might have a poncho pattern for you guys. It kind of was I set a goal for myself that I was going to release another 6 patterns this year. I might have said 5 actually last time, I can't remember now. guess what, it's 6 now. Anyway, so one of them is Poncho. The others I think are probably going to be just like more small accessories, so they will be something like towels, mittens, hats or socks, or small things. They're much easier to grade, and I think that's kind of where I am in the design process. The poncho might be a little bit out of my realm. I might be a little bit too ambitious with this, but we're gonna try anyway. Yeah, that's all that I've been knitting on. These between the Irish sweater and this poncho has been taking up an awful lot of my knitting time. So that's all that I have to really show you guys today. So just a quick recap. Have a think about what you think about No-nlyon sock wool. Let me know in the comments what you think about this Moorland Mohair. If you're local and you want to come down and have a look at the shade card and have a squish of the yarn itself and let me know what you think about it, by all means, please do. There will also be, I wasn't going to say this because I kind of had a little bit of a tease of some new yarn that I was planning to bring in November, but I didn't want to tease you with it again, but listen, I'm going to, because I'm fairly certain that I'm not going to tease you with it this time. So I'm looking at bringing in Bob Ramu to the shop. Probably starting out with their Woodland DK. And that is a BFL mix. So it's absolutely stunning. It's got some beautiful colors in it. The only reason that I haven't brought it in yet, actually, frankly, was just because we had a little bit of a budgeting issue. Well, I had a domestic budgeting issue that took away from shop budget, but we're kind of back on track now. So I'm hoping to get that order from Baramu within the next couple of weeks, and then it will be here, yeah, hopefully by March. So that's probably really news for the next podcast. It's just a little bit of a tease. I'm trying not to tease you guys with these, but yeah, there is new yarns coming. There will also be, as I mentioned earlier, there will be an Inspiring Yarns order going in. So just as soon as they're able to fill that, I will have some more very, very lovely hand-dyed stuff in here, and I'm looking forward to that. It's been a while since I've had it in. Yeah, so I think that's all that I have for you guys today, this week, this month. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Looking forward to hearing your feedback, and I hope that the time that you spend with me here, I guess I just hope that it inspires you, or that you find it at least a little bit educational or entertaining at the very least. So thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed your time here, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and the like button. That really helps me to get seen by other people. Plus then you'll know as soon as the next episode comes out, you'll get a little notification. And yeah, I will see you guys next month. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.